Hello, it's Monday, July 31st, 2017. You are listening to Inception Radio Network, voice of the fringe majority. This is Carol Carl with UFO Headline News. For this last day of the month of July 2017, here's what's going on tonight in your sky. It's a waxing gibbous moon this week. Tonight and in the coming evenings, people will see a waxing gibbous moon in the evening sky. The half-lit first quarter moon happened on Sunday, July 30th. That term waxing simply means we're seeing more and more of the moon's illuminated side or day side, but we'll polish that up in a minute. Gibbous means the moon's disk appears to us now more than 50% lit by sunshine. Tonight, July 31st, the moon is barely more than 50% illuminated, but the moon will be rising later and appear in the sky for more hours of the night, looking bigger and brighter each evening this week. Full moon will come August 7th or 8th this year, depending on your time zone, and thus in 2017, the moon will all but obliterate the annual Perseid meteor shower. At the same time, the moon is now edging toward that lunar eclipse, and then, of course, a solar eclipse. We'll talk more about that later, too. At this upcoming full moon, people from Earth's eastern hemisphere can watch Earth's dark shadow, or umbra, darken the southern edge of the August 2017 full moon. Hence, that part of the world will see a partial eclipse of the moon. By the way, Bruce McClure, who writes this for earthsky.org, adds that a lunar eclipse can only happen at full moon because that's the only time Earth's shadow can fall on the moon. More often than not, the full moon eludes the Earth's shadow by swinging to the north and the south of it, hence no eclipse, but not this month. 3 weeks from now, the moon's shadow will hit the Earth. August 21st, 2017, a new moon. The moon's dark umbral shadow will cross the United States during daylight hours, August 21st. And of course, this is generating a lot of information on the internet, a plethora of coverage from many angles. This broadcaster can determine so far the geolocation for the initial observation of the eclipse will be just outside the city of Bend, Oregon, close to Sublimity, Oregon, we hear tell, and all its sightings of UFOs, by the way. There's something here that really isn't an article. It's a link we could not resist sharing with you, gentle listeners. It's put together by Eleanor Imster, who writes for earthsky.org, and it's just a headline with a link to a graphic that will knock your socks off. She just begins, "This is not a mystical tree." Well, let's just say it involves the use of a drone and Iceland. Have a look. Check it out later at ufoheadlinenews.com. So to wrap up that term waxing gibbous moon, what you're going to see in the sky this week, it's more than half lighted, but less than full. A waxing gibbous moon rises during the hours between noon and sunset. It sets in the wee hours after midnight. It falls between a first quarter moon and a full moon. Any moon that appears more than half-lighted but less than full is called a gibbous moon. Oh, the word gibbous, by the way, comes from a root word that means humpbacked. People often see a waxing gibbous moon in the afternoon, shortly after moonrise, while it's ascending in the east as the sun is descending in the west. It's easy to see a waxing gibbous moon in the daytime because during this phase of the moon, a respectably large fraction of the moon's day side is now facing our way. So here's the bottom line. The waxing gibbous moon is waxing toward full moon on August 7th through the 8th coming up, obliterating the annual meteor showers and edging toward a lunar eclipse and then a solar eclipse. A funny thing happened on our way toward the sleuthing down of waxing gibbous. We found a great story we're going to do tomorrow. The headline, 8 Myths and Legends About the Moon. It's from, of all things, the Farmer's Almanac. Tomorrow on UFO Headline News right here at Inception Radio Network. Segue to an article from NASA written by Brinton Parker for popsugar.us. Headline, People are calling this NASA statement a warning. Read it for yourself. Well, it's eclipse watching safety time. People have been calling NASA's latest statement about the upcoming total solar eclipse a warning, but the agency simply refers to the suggestion as safety tips. Either way, you'll want to check it out. It's a list of best practices, and it applies to the celestial phenomenon that's set to occur August 21st, when an estimated 300 million people may be able to view a total solar eclipse. NASA predicts the total eclipse will be visible in 14 United States states, but such a celestial event can prove problematic because viewers and space fanatics don't exercise the same caution they use in everyday life. Quote, "It's common sense not to stare directly at the sun with your naked eyes or risk damaging your vision, and that advice holds true for a partially eclipsed sun," end quotes. Yep, those are NASA's own words. That's their official statement, which was released July 21st. Instead of using sunglasses or the naked eye to observe the eclipse, NASA urges citizens to utilize special eclipse viewing glasses or handheld solar viewers that fit a list of specific criteria. These include designated standards of production, a manufacture date fewer than 3 years, apparently they don't have a long shelf life, and specific types of filters. To ensure that your viewing apparatus meets those suggested NASA criteria, you can read the full list in NASA's press release, and you can link later to that just a click at ufoheadlinenews.com. The release also gives you tips for where to find appropriate viewing glasses, including over 6,800 public libraries in the United States. Go libraries. If this method for viewing the eclipse isn't feasible for you, NASA also includes another suggestion for space fans. Quote, "An alternative method for safe viewing of the partially eclipsed sun is with a pinhole projector. With this method, sunlight streams through a small hole, such as a pencil hole in a piece of paper, or even the space between your fingers, and onto a makeshift screen, such as a piece of paper or on the ground. It's important to only watch the screen or the ground and not the sun. Never look at the sun through the pinhole. It is not safe," end quotes. So when August rolls around, be sure to feed your love of space safely, it says here, especially when the space agency provides so many clever ways to appreciate the celestial phenomenon safely. There's no reason to ever stare directly into the sun. Nope, no reason whatsoever. Speaking of NASA, apparently all the forces of Mother Nature and the usual suspects were in alignment, shall we say. It was a go for the new crew members on their way up to the ISS. We grabbed this story from Forbes.com. Don't see a byline here, but here's the info. The latest International Space Station crew members have reached their orbiting home without a hitch, docking after a 6-hour space flight at 5:55 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. NASA's Randy Bresnik, the ESA's Paula Nespoli, and Sergei Ryanzansky of Russia's Roscosmos joined the other 3 members of the expedition already on board for a 4-month stint of scientific investigations. Commander Fyodor Yurchikhin of Roscosmos and flight engineers Peggy Whitson and Jack Fisher of NASA welcomed the new astronauts when the hatch was opened between the Soyuz spacecraft and the ISS's Razvet module, where the craft docked. The crew will now start work on the 250 or so science experiments to the space station, including studies in biology, earth science, physical sciences, and technology development. SpaceX's 12th NASA-contracted commercial resupply mission is due in August, and amongst the essentials, the craft will also carry new experiments for the crew, including a study developed by the Michael J. Fox Foundation. Yup, that wonderful actor. It's studies into the pathology of Parkinson's disease, and in spite of having his own personal struggle with that affliction, he continues to produce an amazing body of work, by the way, providing a lot of what we think must be definite encouragement for others who have this condition. This expedition will also be conducting a new study into how stem cells operate under microgravity, and an investigation into the benefits of manufacturing fiber optic filaments in microgravity will arrive via a Russian Progress resupply mission. As is typical for the ISS roster, Whitson, Fisher, and Yurchikin will leave in September and be replaced by 2 NASA astronauts, Mark Vanderhei and Joseph Akaba, and cosmonaut Alexander Mersurkin. Nespoli, Bresnik, and Ryan Zansky will remain on board until December. This will be the 3rd spaceflight for Italian astronaut Paolo Nespoli. He's already clocked up 174 days in space during a flight on a space shuttle back in 2007 and a 5-month supply mission to the ISS in 2011. For both Bresnik and Ryan Zansky, this was their 2nd spaceflight. Hard to imagine a first spaceflight for most of us. We've been following or attempting to follow some of the research going on regarding Saturn's moon Titan. Well, here's something from Digital Trends with a byline for Lulu Chang. Headline: Scientists discover a building block of cells on Saturn's moon Titan. Our quest for extraterrestrial life may be closer to bearing fruit. As per recent findings published in Science Advances magazine, scientists now have a, quote, definitive detection, end quotes, of something called vinyl cyanide, described as, quote, the best candidate molecule for the formation of cell membranes, vesicle structures, end quotes. And given that cells are the building blocks of life, it's not too far of an extrapolation to say that the discovery of vinyl cyanide on Titan, one of Saturn's moons, could be the discovery of a potential ingredient for, well, life itself. While scientists have long suspected that Titan might host vinyl cyanide, it was previously not more than an inference. But now, NASA's Cassini probe has achieved the, quote, first spectroscopic detection, end quotes, of the compound. Astronomers used data collected from the Atacama Large Millimeter Array. They call her ALMA, which means soul in Spanish, by the way, and they drew their conclusions from this data. Titan has been a prime candidate for extraterrestrial life for quite some time now. After all, the surface of the moon shows lakes, and Titan also features an atmosphere comprised mainly of nitrogen and compounds similar to those found on Earth, compounds crucial to life. The discovery of vinyl cyanide is yet another reason to continue researching Titan for its life-sustaining possibilities. Here's a quote from the co-author of this study, Martin Cordiner, an astrochemist at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center. Quote, this is a far cry from saying life definitely happens on Titan and these cells are involved in some kind of primitive life. But it gives us a starting point in that discussion. If there was going to be life in Titan's oceans, then it's plausible vinyl cyanide could be a component of that, end quotes. There still is no absolute proof that cell membranes could ultimately exist on Titan. In order to make that determination, we'll need to send another probe to Saturn's moon. Quote, there's been some discussion of maybe sending a boat or something like that to Titan to observe what's really going on in the lakes, end quotes. That's from yet another co-author of the study, Maureen Palmer. She's an astrochemist at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center as well. She said, quote, that'd be really cool to see, end quotes. Oh, indeed. And if it does happen and there's video, you can bet that although we're radio, we'll link you to it. At the end of the day, concludes Martin Cordiner, quote, as we explore more in the outer solar system, These moons of the giant planets reveal to us that they are much more fascinating environments than we could ever have imagined. Complex chemistry is not unique to Earth, end quotes. And we can't help but be reminded of that old sci-fi movie trope, quote, life as we know it, end quotes. To be continued. Here's a headline, byline for Brian Wong, who writes it for nextbigfuture.com. Laser SETI. For whole sky at a time, laser flashes from aliens. SETI, well, that's the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, and now there's Laser SETI among their other branches. It's an audacious project to place specialized cameras around the globe to look for laser flashes from deep space. They've got an Indiegogo campaign. Their target, $100,000. So far, they've raised $53,000 of that. This is the first campaign ever to scan the, quote, whole sky all the time, end quotes, for signals from an extraterrestrial civilization. Laser SETI makes this possible by using multiple redundant and inexpensive detectors located strategically around the globe. And experiments over the past 2 years have shown that this technology works. The Laser SETI campaign will fund the remaining development and the installation of 2 detectors in a fully operational observing campaign. This would be a prelude to a large-scale production situation and deployment around the world. These 2 prototype cameras will be enough to localize targets on the sky and examine the algorithms used in signal detection. Until now, SETI experiments, whether listening for a radio transmission or searching for a high-powered laser, have assumed that ET is on the air all the time, so that whenever the instrument is pointed, the signal will be there. Laser SETI is the first experiment to circumvent this assumption. Laser SETI could find a very short ping from anywhere in the night sky. Indeed, it could detect a laser flash as short as a millisecond or less, and one that might not repeat for days, weeks, or even longer, or ever. Searching all the sky all the time is an essential capability when looking for intermittent signals. Radio experiments may someday be able to do that, but Laser SETI can do it right now. With your help. That's how the article ends. And if you're so inclined, you can find a link that will let you do that later at ufoheadlinenews.com. Let's go to the United Kingdom, shall we? That sounds like a plan. We picked this up from the ShropshireStar.com. Headline, is this a UFO spotted over Shrewsbury? The article begins, is it a bird, is it a plane, or is it an unidentified flying object? This gets a byline for Jordan Reynolds. Richard and Margaret Pugh were leaving their house in Bicton Heath, Shrewsbury, to get a taxi to the airport when they heard a, quote, low-frequency buzzing noise, end quotes. Mr. Pugh said it was, quote, a strange-shaped aircraft in the sky about 500 feet up, end quotes. It may look like a frisbee flung into the air. Yes, gentle listeners, there is a photo you can find later at ufoheadlinenews.com. It looks like a frisbee indeed, but the couple insist they do not know what the object, seen early Wednesday morning, is or where it came from. The 61-year-old Mr. Pugh added, quote, whilst on the way to the airport at about 6:45 a.m., my family and I spotted this strange circle-shaped aircraft in the sky just west of Shrewsbury near Bicton Heath. We were just getting into the taxi to get to the airport on our way to Spain, and we heard a buzzing noise, a really low-frequency sound, and saw this whiz by us. It was only about 500 feet up in the sky, and it was bigger than a Royal Air Force Typhoon fighter jet. My wife got her phone out and started frantically pressing the camera snap button to get this image. Our taxi driver said he couldn't believe his eyes, and it was a UFO. I've never seen anything like this, and yes, it could have been a military drone-type aircraft, but having looked on the web, we can't find anything remotely similar. The wife thinks it is aliens, and I'm not sure, but I'm not ruling it out, end quotes. We'll keep our eyes on those Shrewsbury skies. A drone? No, to us the size rules that out right away. Buckle up now, it's UFOstalker.com sighting time, and our itinerary takes us up and over a lot of water and to St. Andrews, New Brunswick, Canada. That's the setting for MUFON case number 85251. The date of this sighting is the 20th of July, 2017. It was reported the next day. Here's the summary. Small, two-tone, white, micro UFO, about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch, almost transparent. Curious how tiny. Under sighting specifics, our witness offers a viewing distance of 20 feet or less, an unknown altitude, a 20-second sighting duration. These objects are said to have had features of patterned surface and other. The flight path of these tiny things, stationary, hovering, and then path, and then a straight line path, and then a path with directional change, and then a path, and then more hovering. And their shape generally is fit into the category of sphere. There isn't any notation regarding the weather, but here's the sighting. I am visiting with my friend at his waterfront cottage in St. Andrews by the Sea. The weather was perfect. At about 1900 hours, we're sitting outside on the deck when a micro UFO, about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch in size, passed between us, moving from the northwest to the south. Only I noticed it at first. I watched it move up to the window of the cottage, stop for a few moments, looking inside, and then it moved away through the latticework of a cast-iron patio chair. It seemed to do this when it noticed I was watching it, and my friend said that it went straight up in seconds. It was 2 shades of white. It looked like a soccer ball and a dandelion. All this was over in 20 seconds. The first thing I said to my friend was, that was a UFO, and he agreed. We both think small UFOs are best as not to scare us. Interesting comment. Mini UFOs. Perhaps an extraterrestrial budget cutback thing? Let's take ourselves down the eastern seaboard through the New England states, through New York, and go to Newark, New Jersey. That's where MUFON case number 85505 happened. The date of this sighting is the 28th of July. It was reported July 30th. Here's the summary. 10 small lights moving slow in the same direction. Under the category of sighting specifics, our viewing distance listed by the witness here is over 1 mile, the altitude over 500 feet, and there was no cloud cover. The sighting duration here was 40 seconds. Object features unknown. Object flight path, straight line path. The object shape, sphere. Moderate temperatures exist for this event. A maximum temperature in Newark, New Jersey of 78 degrees Fahrenheit, 26 degrees Celsius. Minimum temperature, 67 degrees Fahrenheit, 19 degrees Celsius. The visibility factors were all the same. Maximum, mean, and minimum visibility, 10 miles, 16 kilometers, although at the time of this event it was raining in New Jersey. Gentle listeners, you're sure to note a hilarious discrepancy here. It says in the weather notations it was raining. However, here's the account in the first-person words of our witness. I was waiting for a friend in my car. I had the sunroof open. That's the part. I happened to look up at the sky. I was looking at the clouds and saw 2 white dots moving. I was like, no way. They were moving slowly at the same speed. I looked hard. I saw around 10 objects, solid white lights. They seemed quite high up. There's no way anyone would have seen it if they weren't looking for it. They were very inconspicuous. They weren't arranged in any formation. I tried to look very intently, and I was by myself. I wasn't able to take pictures. I couldn't see much detail, but as I looked at them, I noticed one object that seemed higher up than the rest, but it was different and weird. It had two lights with a purple-like figure 8 pattern going between these two lights. I could barely see this, but I did make it out. The impression I got, if it matters, was that they were chilling, taking in the sights. They were all going the same exact speed. I didn't feel like this was anything military. I didn't feel like it was anything man-made, but who knows? They disappeared over the trees. I'm going to guess these objects were 10 to 20 miles up. Hard to tell. This is my first UFO sighting. Oh, witness, thanks for the report. We're just going to guess maybe it's not your last sighting. Speaking of sighting, we've sighted the time. Egads, we've got to fly over the trees and disappear ourselves because that's a wrap. Follow today's broadcast on iHeartRadio, YouTube, or UFOHeadlineNews.com. Take care of each other. We're all in this together. This is Carol Carl. See you tomorrow.